Here we are at my last class guide video for Early Access. This is the only class I haven't covered, the Bard. Now, why would you want to be a Bard? Well, easily the most versatile class out there. They have spellcasting, they have proficiencies in some weapons and armor, and they get loads of abilities that other classes don't. They're kind of like a jack of all trades, and they even get an ability called that at level 2. Anyway, what do we get? Let's come down to class features. Since we're here for the Bard, level 1 spell slots, we have the same spell slot and spellcasting progression as a wizard, cleric, a full caster. Essentially, dexterity saving throws and charisma saving throws. Dexterity saving throws help prevent taking damage usually, and from falling prone and other things, so it's quite nice to have. Charisma saving throws, not as common. I mean, the spell Bane forces the charisma saving throw, but not many other spells do. So we get light armor proficiency, simple weapon proficiency, and a few other specific weapon proficiencies. So hand crossbow, longsword, rapier, and short sword. Those eagle-eyed among you will notice that the hand crossbow, rapier, and short sword all rely on dexterity, or can rely on dexterity, for their attack rolls and damage. So I would suggest, as soon as you can find some hand crossbows for your Bard, do so. We also get musical instrument proficiency right from the get-go, which also links to this. We get to choose a starting instrument. The instruments have no mechanical difference to the game, but as it does describe here, it does change the soundscape, as they call it. So your Bard uses the musical instrument when they cast spells. And talking about casting spells, we get 2 cantrips only, very few. Here we have Vicious Mockery, the only cantrip to deal damage. It's not even very much damage. So the target has to make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail, they take 1d4 psychic damage. Now, we don't really pick this cantrip to do lots of damage. What's really nice is that it has disadvantage on its next attack roll. So a cantrip is a debuff. The only cantrip that works this way to give disadvantage on an attack roll. Blade Ward, I wouldn't usually pick this for a Bards. Gives you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, but just for 2 turns. We can't really buff that in any way. I would avoid it. Mage Hand can be okay. It provides an extra target on the battlefield, and as people have been reminding me in some comments, they can throw things as well. We can cast Enlarge on it, but it requires your concentration, which is going to be a big thing for the Bard. Avoid the spell that shall not be named. Friends can be good to have outside of combat, although as a Bard with a high charisma and you can get proficiency in some skills, you don't necessarily need this. But again, requires concentration, so you have to be careful. Dancing Lights provides light if someone in your party needs it, but again, concentration. Light. Out of Dancing Lights and Light, I do tend to go towards Light now because of the lack of concentration and the fact it moves around with someone. And lastly, Minor Illusion can be alright, doesn't require concentration, can help in and outside of combat. My pick would usually be Vicious Mockery, plus one other of your choice. I'm going to go with Light, just in case I pick someone who needs it, such as Will, Gale, or Lae'zel. Then we get to pick 4 spells known. So Bards are like sorcerers in that respect, that we do only get to know spells and learn spells when we level up, and like a Warlock, for example. A lot of their spells tend to be more support spells. Not all of them, though. Before we actually go and look at the spells individually, there are only 2 spells that deal damage from the level 1 spells. Right, Animal Friendship, avoid it. It's basically a complete waste, especially when we only have a limited number of spells. Bane can be okay, can be quite good. Enemies receive 1d4 penalty to attack rolls and saving throws. And the thing is, like with clerics, get this as well, but Bane, to me, kind of fights with Bless for concentration and kind of helping your allies. This isn't such a bad choice. Charm Person, again, avoid it. Just use friends outside of combat. Cure Wounds, I'm going to speak about Healing Word at the same time. Again, we have a limited number of spells known. I would never pick Cure Wounds and Healing Word. It's basically a bit of a waste. The reason we want healing mostly is for during combat if someone gets knocked down, or if we've got items that provide buffs upon a heal. Keeping that in mind, I would suggest Healing Word over Cure Wounds because of the range and the bonus action. Disguise Self lets you change your appearance to any other race, and this can be good if you want to get around a bit easier to turn into a drow. Dissonant Whispers. So the target needs to make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail, they take 3d6 psychic damage, quite beefy amount of damage for a level 1 spell. And they're frightened, which means they can't move and have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. So another debuff there from the Bard. Fairy Fire, if enemies fail a dexterity saving throw, everyone has advantage against them, and they provide light as well. Very good debuff spell for a Bard. Featherfall, I would, again, maybe learn this at level 1, but as you level up, you can change your spells, like the other casters that have known spells, because eventually you can get some boots that give you this at will. Not even once per long rest, so you can just cast Featherfall as much as you want. And there are scrolls, but it helps with exploration and also during combat. Heroism. A fairly unique spell. Not many classes get access to this. The main downside is it requires concentration. What does it do though? Target cannot be frightened and gains 5 temporary hit points each turn. It's just 5 temporary hit points, which is really, really good. Only affects one target, sadly. The first use I can think of it is actually on the Nautiloid, and you can cast this on the Mind Flayer that's fighting Commander Zulk. And the Mind Flayer gets 5 temporary hit points every single turn, so Commander Zulk has to get through more and more health before the Mind Flayer goes down. Anyway, it can be good for a frontliner or someone who's in trouble. Someone who's getting attacked, take it, can be good. But again, concentration. Tasha's Hideous Laughter. If the enemy fails a wisdom saving throw, they go prone, and you get critical hits against them from within 5 feet. Really quite cool. Only downside, concentration. And we've got a few concentration spells here. Long Strider, a nice little buff, increases movement speed by 10 feet. Doesn't require concentration, so you can cast it, forget about it. And as you level up, you'll find that your level 1 spells, you're going to rely on them less and less for damage, so you do want them for buffs and debuffs. So Long Strider can be quite a good choice, especially if you've got someone who doesn't have a high movement speed because they're a gnome, a halfling or dwarf. Sleep, I really quite like the spell at the lower levels especially. Again, maybe you can switch it out later because we fight lots of goblins early on. They got low numbers of hit points, so take it, use it. Speak with animals. I would take a potion over this. I would buy potions, especially from Volo. Other classes and even a race get access to this without needing a spell slot, so I wouldn't pick Speak with Animals only because there are other ways to get it. And Thunderwave, we all know Thunderwave, it's great. So what would my picks be? Well, actually, almost the 4 I had there. I always pick Healing Word. It's great to have someone who's got Healing Word as a backup. I would take at least one damaging spell, either Dissonant Whispers or Thunderwave. Because of the short range of Thunderwave, I often go with Dissonant Whispers instead, although Thunderwave is an area of effect and has that lovely knockback. I would then pick at least 1, if not 2 debuffs. So Fairy Fire, I really do like Fairy Fire. And Sleep, because it doesn't require concentration. So I've picked 4 spells. 1 of them requires concentration. Perhaps you could pick another concentration spell. You know, you're not always going to be casting every spell every turn anyway. So maybe you don't like Sleep and maybe you prefer Tasha's Hideous Laughter. And lastly, down here on the class features, we get Bardic Inspiration. Inspire an ally to go beyond their capabilities with your performance. You can add a 1d6 bonus to your next attack roll, which is really quite good. Ability check, good for usually outside of combat. And saving throw, really good inside combat also. We'll look at this in more detail later. We'll look at reactions and when we can use them. The lovely, lovely thing is it requires a bonus action. Doesn't require an action. So you can cast a spell and then send off some Bardic Inspiration. At level 1 to 4, Bardic Inspiration only recharges on a long rest. So you have to use it a bit sparingly at the right time. Once we hit level 5, whew, things will change. Alright, then my next favourite thing to pick is Race. So, Bards have Charisma as their casting stat. Not every spell requires the Charisma. I'll come back to here. Only 3 of my current spells require Charisma, others don't. You could potentially build a Bard with a lower Charisma and pick spells that don't require Charisma, and then go higher for your Dexterity or Constitution and things. Anyway, generally looking for races with a good Charisma. So that leaves us with a Tiefling. They get Charisma +2. So Asmodeus Tieflings. Well, all Tieflings get resistance to fire damage, always useful. There's a lot of fire damage around. Dark Vision, which is great. Now, Asmodeus in particular get, and all of them have a 30 feet movement speed. Intelligence +1, maybe not so useful. There are a few intelligence checks, but otherwise doesn't come into play. Charisma +2, which is what we want. They get Thaumaturgy, which is another cantrip and gives you advantage on intimidation and performance checks. This is like a poor man's friend, but actually has a benefit of no concentration and no one getting annoyed at you afterwards, but only does intimidation and performance. Anyway, Thaumaturgy is good, I would say, for a bard. At level 3, you'd get Hellish Rebuke, which is nice to have, I suppose. Nothing wrong with that. At level 2, you get Darkness. The kind of a battlefield control spell, kind of fitting for a bard. So, I mean, yeah, Asmodeus Tieflings certainly work. Mephistopheles Tieflings, basically the same as Asmodeus apart from the spell. So you get Mage Hand, which is nice. If you want to have Mage Hand, then you can pick Mephistopheles Tieflings for that, and then you get to pick another cantrip for your bard. At level 1, they'd get Burning Hands, which it's okay, but it's only once per long rest. And level 2, you get Flame Blade. Again, it can be okay. You could actually build a bard around having Flame Blade in the offhands, because there are ways to get better armor class and things. Lastly, Zariel Tieflings, we get Strength +1. I think it's always good to have +1 Strength anywhere. You can carry a bit more, jump a bit further potentially. Get Thaumaturgy also. I've already mentioned that's quite a good spell to have. But then we get Searing Smite and Branding Smite at level 3 and 5. I would avoid those as a Tiefling. I would avoid those as a bard. Generally, you don't want to be running into combat unless you pick a particular subclass. We'll get to that later. If you know you're going to be picking a Valor Bard, the College of Valor, maybe Zara Tifling is actually a really good choice for you. Drought, really quite good to have. We get Dexterity +2 and Charisma +1, both of which we want. We get Proficiency in Perception. We get some weapon proficiencies. Unfortunately, Bards get all of these 3 anyway. So that's, yeah, a little bit sad. But we get Superior Dark Vision, amazing. Can't be put to sleep. And have advantage on saving throws against being charmed. Awesome. We get Dancing Lights, which is not so bad. At level 3, you get Fairy Fire. So that can again help you maybe not pick Fairy Fire at level 1. And then at level 5, you get Darkness. And it's okay. The better spells to have, but you know, you can't be picky when you're picking your race. Humans, they get Charisma +1 and Dexterity and Constitution +1. Nice all-round set of stats there. The Half-Elf are an amazing race for any Charisma-based class because we get Charisma +2, and then we get to pick 2 other ability scores to improve by +1. I would usually go for Dexterity and Constitution because they help us survive. High Half-Elf, maybe if you really wanted to pick Friends or Lights or Mage Hand or Minor Illusion, or Dancing Lights, because none of these require your intelligence to be high, because when you pick a cantrip from a High Elf or High Half-Elf, the cantrips are based on your intelligence modifier. If you want to pick one of these cantrips, actually High Half-Elf isn't so bad. The Wood Half-Elf is always going to be a good choice because we get 35 feet of movement speed and an extra proficiency. And the Drow Half-Elf actually work really well because we don't get these weapon proficiencies, but we don't need them anyway. But we get all the spells that Drow get. Life at Halfling, we get Charisma +1, so we can get a starting stat of 16. Proficiency in Stealth, Lucky and Brave. I quite like that actually, having Life at Halfling and Dexterity +2 here. And that's basically it for the Charisma classes. Of course, I've said this in lots of my guide videos now. You don't have to pick one of these races. If you want to be a Githyanki Bard, do it. I did it myself once for a Valor Bard. I made a build, I made a video about it. Anyway, you can pick any race you want. I'm going to make 2 Bards, 1 for each subclass, probably Drow Half-Elf, and I'll pick another one later. Then we come to skills, and Bards get to pick any 3 skills they want. Absolutely no restriction. This is part of the point of them being versatile, having a lot of utility, is you get to pick the direction your Bard goes in. So pick whatever you want. Good choices: Perception, Acrobatic, or Athletics. Probably go with only one of that of the 2. Sleight of Hand, Stealth, and any of the Charisma Charisma skills that you want. And likewise, with your background, it really doesn't matter. You don't have to pick a background for a particular proficiency because you get to pick any proficiency that you want anyway. With your background, you completely lean into any role-playing, any idea you've got. Then we come to abilities. Already mentioned it. You want Charisma to be as high as possible for your spells. Dexterity will directly affect your armor class. Initiative and Dexterity saving throws, you want that to be kind of high. Constitution helps you with your Constitution saving throws, which you will be making when you want to maintain concentration and your hit points directly. Up those, and then put anything else high that you want. I've always professed for Wisdom and Strength. Strength to help you jump further and carry things, and Wisdom because Wisdom saving throws are very, very important, and there are actually a few skills that require Wisdom. Pick your ability points at what you want. Do keep in mind there are 2 ways to increase your Charisma by +1 using items. So starting with an odd number is actually a pretty good way to start a Bard, which also means, coming back to race, you know, you could pick let's say a Shield Dwarf, and then use Volo's Eye to put the Charisma up to 16 quite early on anyway. So make your choices, and then come join me next to show you how Bardic Inspiration works. So I'm on the Nautiloid, and the first thing I'll show you is Bardic Inspiration. It would be best for me right now to put it on the Mind Flare, but just to show you how it really works, I'm going to put it on Lae'zel. So let's use my bonus action. It's taken up one of the charges, and now... I can't do it with Lae'zel. I'm trying to press L, so we'll see what happens. So you can actually usually use a reaction, but the game doesn't like that I'm looking at reactions on Lae'zel. On the Nautiloid. Off the Nautiloid, it'll be fine. So we can see there that she did use Inspiration. So at the moment, she got to add a 1d6 to her attack roll. She rolled a 1, bit unfortunate. And then that Inspiration is used up. So if I want to have Inspiration on her again, I have to use another Bardic Inspiration and another bonus action. Now, something else I want to show you is Vicious Mockery.
Listen up!
I'm hoping this works. It might not work, right? It requires a Wisdom saving throw. And there are loads and loads of lines of Vicious Mockery. I will not be able to show you all of them. Each character's got a set of insults.
Thou pyrite-loving tit!
And that's pretty good, because now, Commander Zulk has disadvantage on his next attack, which will help the Mind Flayer last a little bit longer. Something else I've done, since I've got 2 bards, they come with a hand crossbow each. I've given one of them 2 hand crossbows, because this means any leftover bonus action I have, I can actually shoot. And I'm not going to do that, because what I do want to do, first of all, is cast Heroism on the Mind Flayer. We can see the Mind Flayer got 5 temporary hit points. And then I'm going to give Bardic Inspiration to the Mind Flayer. I really want the Mind Flayer to hit. So unfortunately, even with disadvantage, the Commander Zulk still hit. That's because the Mind Flayer's armor class is 13, it's very low. But 5 of that damage was absorbed by the temporary hit points. So what we're also going to do to help out the Mind Flayer, now that Commander Zulk has attacked, he doesn't have disadvantage anymore, so if I want to keep up that disadvantage,
This'll be mean.
I've got to keep up the Vicious Mockery.
Feculent beast.
What I'd love to see is actually the lines in the combat log. Oh well. Now the Mind Flayer already has Bardic Inspiration, so there's no use in actually giving Bardic Inspiration at this point. So we can see here that the Mind Flayer rolled 17. Unfortunately, we're not in control of other people's actions. So what I'm actually going to do this time is give inspiration to the other bard, so we can see it work better next time. Right, I'm going to show you Tasha's Hideous Laughter. There he is, down on the floor. What I'm hoping is that is maintained. Nope, end of their turn they get a saving throw, never mind. So with Bardic Inspiration, actually gives you a reaction. If you want to use the inspiration, you have to have this circle ticked. I personally would actually get it to ask you, otherwise it will use it automatically. So now what I'm going to do, this bard has got a light crossbow that we found on the Nautiloid. I'm going to try and attack the Lesser Hellsball because there's a lower chance we're going to hit. So we can see here, if we didn't ask, it would actually have used the Bardic Inspiration already. So it tells you what we need to hit, the armor class of the enemy, and what we rolled. We rolled a 19. I don't want to use it. I don't know why it's asking twice. And so there we are, I've actually maintained my inspiration. And how about we give some more to the Mind Flayer, just in case it helps. At level 2, we get various things given to us. We get an extra level 1 spell slot. We get Jack of all trades. Kind of mentioned this earlier. So you get to add half of your proficiency bonus rounded down, which means in early access, it's going to be a +1 the whole time to ability checks you're not proficient in. So if you've got any skill where people aren't proficient and don't have a particularly good stat in that skill, let's say Arcana, may as well give your bard a go. We also get Song of Rest. Use your craft to soothe. You and your allies revitalize as though you would have taken a short rest. This straight up gives you 1 extra short rest per long rest. Considering that we don't have any real restriction on long rests, this isn't as useful, but I really do like this myself. I like having that extra short rest, just a click of a button, and we get half a hit points, warlocks recover their spell slots, fighters get the battle maneuver, well, battle masters get the maneuver dice back and all that. We get to pick an extra spell. I didn't pick Healing Word with this bard, but perhaps I do want to do that. And we get to replace a spell. Let's say I haven't had much luck with Thunderwave, but I want to have Dissonant Whispers instead. So we're at level 3 and we get quite a few choices here. We get to pick 2 skills with which to have expertise in. And expertise is where you add double your proficiency bonus, which is currently +2. At level 5 it goes to +3. You get to pick expertise in any skill you're already proficient in. So let's say I want this guy to be really good at, let's say, Persuasion and Sleight of Hand. I want him to be able to pickpocket the best that there can be. Then we get our subclass choice, College of Law, College of Valor. I'm going to go through College of Law first, so we get 3 additional proficiencies. Now, very annoyingly, we don't get to pick what these proficiencies are. And in 5th edition, we do. Larian, in all their wisdom, have decided to give us proficiency in Arcana, Intimidation, and Sleight of Hand. And I've actually wasted this. I've already got Sleight of Hand. I don't get to pick another one instead. I don't get expertise for having double proficiency. It's just an absolute waste. Complete overlap. I hope it changes in the future. We also get Cutting Words, another way to use our Bardic Inspiration. It says use your wit to distract a creature and sap its confidence. Well, what this means is we can use our Bardic Inspiration. Instead of giving a bonus to an ally, we give it basically a debuff to an enemy. So when they attack or force a saving throw, we can do a -1d6 minus the Bardic Die Inspiration. We also, now that we're level 3, get some level 2 spells. Now I've seen some people say, oh man, bards can't do damage, when we've got access to Shatter. Cloud of Daggers, almost one of the best spells in the game. Probably the most damaging level 2 spell we can have. Heat Metal can be okay. And then we get some other choices. Let's go through them all. So Blindness, the only downside to casting Blindness is it kind of feels like there are often other choices, other spells to cast instead. It doesn't require concentration, makes enemies blind, so you have advantage against them, they have disadvantage on their attack rolls. Calm Emotions, suppress strong emotions in an area, making all humanoids immune to being charmed or frightened. This is actually really powerful in some fights. So against the Harpies, this is absolutely amazing. This saves you any hassle. Fights against enemies such as Mind Masters or Near, you can't be charmed. It takes a lot of the difficulty out of those fights. Cloud of Daggers is great, does 44 damage when you cast it and at the beginning of the enemy's next turn. And currently, the AI doesn't avoid the Cloud of Daggers, so they'll walk straight into it. Crown of Madness requires concentration also. If the enemy fails their wisdom saving throw, they will attack a creature closest to them, but you need to make sure that there are enemies close enough to them to attack. It's a bit hit and miss, to be honest. Tech Thoughts, absolutely fine to have. The only downside is it requires concentration, so if you're concentrating on something else, this will override it. But since it's a spell known, you can just use it and have it. There is also a necklace in the Arcane Tower that gives you this at will also, so maybe you can avoid this. Enhanced ability, this is cool. Clerics, I think, and Druids get this. You can get advantage on any ability check. Only downside is concentration. Heat Metal does 2d8 fire damage every turn. You do have to activate it every turn. And they also receive disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. If they fail the Constitution saving throw, they can drop their weapon. Can be quite good. Only real downside is finding enemies that have metallic weapons or armor. Hot Person is a great control spell. Only real downside is concentration. Means all attacks from within 5 feet are critical hits. Invisibility got a bit of a nerf in patch 9. Only lasts 10 turns, so we can't use it outside of combat so easily. Obviously in turn-based mode you can, but before you used to be able to cast invisibility and run around the whole map, whereas now you'd have to basically recast it. Lesser Restoration. There is a necklace in the Druid's Grove that gives this once per long rest, so I would generally avoid it. Phantasmal Force, not really that strong. 1d6 damage per turn, and its concentration. I'd rather just cast Cloud of Daggers most of the time. Sure, each time it takes damage from another source, the damage type of Phantasmal Force changes to that damage type. There aren't too many enemies with vulnerability. Basically, yeah, you've got much better uses of your level 2 spell slots. Choices, your spell slots, and your concentration. Shatter, nice AoE, larger area than Cloud of Daggers. Perfectly reasonable spell to take. And Silence, all within a silenced and immune to thunder damage. Generally, even the AI will walk out of silence to cast the spell. It's not that great. Having a Susa weapon is much better because then silence on a specific person. Alright, what am I going to take? This is my Law Bard. I'm going to have Calm Emotions. It's not going to be useful right now. It might be useful later. And we get a replacement spell. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 concentration spells. Maybe I don't want to have Bane anymore. And I want to take Shatter. I want to have an area of effect instead. And I've got Fairy Fire from being a Drow. Let's make sure I haven't got Fairy Fire, yeah, it's character. I'll then go to College of Valor. We still get to have expertise in 2 different skills that we're already proficient in. I'm going to go for Athletics, so she's really good at shoving in combat. And let's just say Intimidation. We also now, as part of the subclass, get Medium Armor, Shield, and Martial Weapon Proficiency. Now we get Combat Inspiration, which can also add plus 1d6 bonus to the damage of the next attack, or Armor class for 1 attack. This could be really good if you know you're getting a critical hit, with Sleep, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Whole Person, and you really want to rack up the damage. I think it's really, really cool. We get the same choices of spells here, nothing different. But she's going to have Whole Person, so she can go up to people and hit them. And her Charisma is only 14, so maybe I'm better off picking a spell that doesn't require a high Charisma. So maybe Enhanced Ability would be a good choice. Cloud of Daggers, Invisibility, Tech Thoughts would all be decent choices. Let's have Enhanced Ability. Let's have someone with that, actually. And also, as a Zariel Tiefling, I get Searing Smite. Before I wake up the skeletons, I'm just going to show you off the 2 types of new inspiration. I'm going to give Combat Inspiration to Lae'zel. And as a reminder, you cannot give inspiration to yourself. And now this bard has Cutting Words. Go to your reactions, and I'd definitely stick on Ask, and we should see Cutting Words come into play during the battle. So I'm just going to use this just for the sake of it, because I know that particular skeleton can sometimes cast Magic Missile or Sleep. It's very annoying.
Another step forward.
Oh no, she just used up that inspiration, didn't she? I forgot to turn on that for riposte. I will wait until next turn, I believe. Right, so used Valiant Defense. Added armor class, which is a shame. Interestingly, actually, it helped her out. The skeleton would have rolled a 16, And because of the combat inspiration, Valiant Defense took it down to 12. But I didn't want that to be automatic. I did want to be asked. So here, this warrior is attacking Lae'zel. They need 16 to hit. They rolled a 17. Do I want to use my cutting words? If I say yes, it will minus 1d6 from that attack roll. Caused it to miss, which now allows Lae'zel to use her riposte. Unfortunately, that also missed. So I'm going to cast Combat Inspiration again. Onto Lae'zel. I'm going to go to Lae'zel's reactions and this time turn on Ask. So at this point, I can try and cast or use Cutting Words. They've rolled a 6, so I don't need to react there, and I don't need to react with my Valiant Defense. Am I going to use Riposte? Maybe I am. I need a 15 to hit, roll a 16, don't react. Alright, so Lae'zel's going to attack this Scribe. I don't need to use Valiant Attack. I think because I'm killing them, it's not asking me if I want to add the extra damage. I took a bit of damage during that fight trying to set things up, and instead of using any healing or potions, just click on Song of Rest. And we get the equivalent of a short rest, and I've still got 2 short rests left, and a Song of Rest from the other Bard. I frequently mention Volo's Eye in the class guide videos, and this is where I usually get it, inside the Druid's Grove I've just turned up. And you might have your own favourite way of doing this. What I'm going to do is cast Inspiration for at least the first time we do it, and then Cat's Grace, which gives us advantage on Dexterity ability checks. I'm going to have Astarion cast Scroll of Fog Clouds. Then I'm going to get my Bard, who has expertise in Sleight of Hand. I'm going to start with Volo's Ursat's Eye. And we'll see here, advantage from Cat's Grace. I got a +4 proficiency because of expertise. A +4 Valiant roll, that's the inspiration. And a +3 from the dexterity. And go ahead and steal anything else you want. I would actually suggest Whispering Promise is a good choice for a Bard, because if they want to cast Healing Word, they can then buff someone else. And then anything else that you feel like stealing. I do want to point out, we don't have the inspiration on the following checks. It's just the first one. And now that you have the eye in your inventory, make sure you've got the correct character selected, i.e. a character with an odd charisma, probably. Double click on it.
Some bloody help.
It says some bloody help, as if it hasn't worked, but it has. My charisma just went up to 18 and my intelligence went down by 1. You can't use it more than once. I'd go to, well, in fact, let's just send this to Alatav. Double click it. She doesn't say any message, no stats get changed, so you can only use it on a single character. And I just want to show Calm Emotions. Ooh, if I get a tiny bit closer, I might be able to get Murkon in it. Yeah. And then if we get into combat with the Harpies, actually, we don't even get the whole cutscene because Murkon cannot be lured, basically. Only downside to, not downside, but anything to be careful of is actually its concentration. If I lose concentration, I can then be lured again. Let's just go to their turn, the Harpy's turn. So they're just throwing rocks now because they can't actually lure us. I'm not going to go through the whole fight, just wanted to show you that Calm Emotions works here. At level 4, we get to pick a new cantrip, so pick the cantrip of your choice. There's not a massive choice of cantrips for bards anyway. I'm going to pick Cloud of Daggers, and I'm going to replace Heroism with Invisibility, just because. It's up to you what you want to do there. Then for the ability score improvement, if you want to improve your spellcasting, improve Charisma up to the next even number. I do want to point out, this is actually the bard that used Volo's Eye, and it doesn't show you, it doesn't reflect that in the level up screen. So don't let this fool you, this really is 20. The other bard may be Blade Ward just in case. And then let's look at some feats. So this is the Valor Bard. Now maybe I could use Defensive Duelist if I'm wielding a finesse weapon. I wouldn't put Defensive Duelist on a Lore Bard because they get to use cutting words with their reaction. You don't want too many reactions. Dual Wielder could work for a Valor Bard if you've got 2 one-handed weapons that you want to be wielding, and this is instead of having a shield. Great Weapon Master could work as long as you're building a great weapon, and a Valor Bard can. The main downside here is that at level 5 we only get 1 attack. If early access went to level 6, we'd actually get 2 attacks. with the Valor Bard, but we don't, so maybe I'd avoid it and just give it to someone like Lizelle. Heavily armored if you really want to have heavy armor proficiency. Also, interestingly, does add currently your strength up by +2. Don't need lightly armored. Now for any bard, either law or valor, if you want more spellcasting, pick a magic initiate, and we've got 2 prime picks here, sorcerer and warlock, because they both use charisma as their spellcasting modifier. So if you want more cantrips that deal damage, we get the choice of, sorcerer or warlock. For sorcerer, you get firebolt, shock and grasp, red frost, chill touch, and acid splash, I suppose poison spray as well. I wouldn't pick that though. Then pick a single spell that you can cast once per day. That's always the downside to using magic initiates. I don't know, maybe jump, magic missile is always lovely to have, just in case. Magic initiate warlock though, grants you Eldritch Blast. Now by itself, Eldritch Blast isn't amazing. It has the same damage as Firebolt. What makes it great for Warlocks is the invocations. However, using or picking Magic Initiate Warlock, you can pick up Hex. The main downside to this is the concentration element. It uses a bonus action, which means you can't give out inspiration on the same turn, but you're giving yourself loads of different options every turn. But we're going to be using Eldritch Blast mostly. Maybe Friends, because I don't have that yet on this bard. The other magic initiates, if you want to, Wizard is pointless. If you want to use Wizard, just go Sorcerer. They have the same spells basically available to them. Except Wizard uses Intelligence, so I wouldn't want to do that. Maybe you could pick Cleric, because then you can give yourself Guidance, which is a nice support ability. Resistance comes in handy every now and again. I wouldn't pick Sacred Flame though. And why Cleric? Well, then we can pick up Bless. And later on, you can pick up the Arcane Staff, which then gives you an extra use of Bless and makes your Bless superpowered. So, Magic Initiate Cleric, not such a bad choice. Or maybe you just want one of these other spells. Magic Initiate Druid, I wouldn't really go for. I mean, Guidance is fine, actually. I guess I could go Resistance. But what spell would you go for? I'd probably just go Magic Initiate Cleric. But, Goodberry could be okay. I just would avoid that unless you're Battle Master. Mobile, I say, is always going to be a half-decent choice. It's never a bad choice. We don't need Moderately Armored as a Valor Bard. Maybe you could pick it up as a Law Bard, though, if you really want to give yourself extra armor proficiencies and a bit of extra strength or dexterity. Form is sadly a bit pointless. It gives us Charisma +1, yay! But gain musical instrument proficiency, which we already have, so we don't need that. We may as well just go Charisma +2 or Charisma +1 and something else +1. Shieldmaster, maybe. I probably wouldn't, because there are better choices for you really. Skilled if you want to be proficient in more skills, because you want your bard to be good at skills. Tough, maybe Charisma +2 is potentially better to help you keep concentration. And Weapon Master, generally avoid that. Definitely not as a Valor Bard, because we have proficiency in all weapons anyway. What is this bard going to go for? Well, I'm going to pick Great Weapon Master just for the sake of it. Am I going to replace anything? Probably not, because let's think about Great Weapon Master. Hold Person works very well with that. I should get rid of Featherfall. I'm going to get the boots for that soon. So then maybe she can have Shatter. And finally, at level 5, we get level 3 spell slots. Font of Inspiration, this is amazing, especially links to the next one as well. You regain all your bardic inspiration after a long or short rest. And considering bards can give themselves an extra short rest, that's really cool. And also now, the bardic inspiration die goes up to D8 instead of D6. Awesome. And then we get a level 3 spells. Don't let anyone ever tell you, make you think that bards can't do damage, because we get Glyph of Warding, which is one of the most powerful spells in terms of damage we can get. Not quite up there with Fireball, but it's got so much more versatility than Fireball. And also in terms of control spells, forget Tasha's Hideous Laughter now. Fear. Fear is the top control spell, I feel. It's a large cone, 30-foot cone, lasts for 3 turns, makes enemies run away and drop their weapons. Very, very powerful indeed. And the best thing about it is that Glyph of Warding doesn't even require concentration. The other level 3 spells, Bestow Curse, is kind of okay maybe against a single enemy, but nowadays I much prefer just to cast Fear. Feign Death is just crap, ignore it. Hypnotic Pattern only lasts 2 turns, sadly. It can be great if you've got lots of enemies in one place. It does affect allies as well though, so you have to be very careful. Not such a bad choice. Plant Growth, sadly, the one bad thing about it is that surfaces overwrite it and can be set on fire. If that didn't happen, this would be even stronger. Speak with Dead, I would get the Amulet for that. And Stinking Cloud is good. Actually, it's a nice control spell. Potentially takes turns away from enemies. But yeah, these are always going to be my top picks for level 3 spells. And as a Drow Half-Elf, I get Darkness. The first time you go back to camp after rescuing Volo, he will give you the Blazer of Benevolence. Here it is. When you inspire an ally using Bardic Inspiration, you gain 4 temporary hit points. It's okay, actually I prefer other armors, but I thought I would mention it before going through all the items because it is pretty much a Bard specific item. One other Bard specific item can be found in this gilded chest in the Druid's Grove. It's locked. It's not a crime to pick the lock, so don't worry about that. And inside we have the Cap of Curing. When you inspire an ally using Bardic Inspiration, they also gain 1d6 hit points. It's not exactly the same as Healing Word, but it does almost the same sort of thing. As for other items which work well with Bards, we have here the Spider Silk Armor. It's light armor, which Bards are proficient with, and it gives you advantage in Constitution saving throws, so if you're concentrating on something, then you get advantage on that Constitution saving throw. It's the most important part, but also just any spells that force Constitution saving throws, you got advantage. Basically, really good for a caster who has proficiency in light armor. I've given the Silver Pendant, so this is a source of guidance in case I don't want to use Bardic Inspiration for someone. The Ring of Colour Spray, do you know, I find there aren't too many rings that are absolutely essential. So I've gone with a support sort of spell, Colour Spray. I've put it on a few of my builds. Basically, it's just nice to have an additional spell that we can use. The Whispering Promise, as I stole from Volo. So when you heal someone, they gain basically Bless for a turn. The Herbalist Gloves. Now, got to bear in mind, Law Bards, this is the Law Bards. Law Bards can only wear light armor unless they don't want to cast any spells. There aren't really any great gloves. I mean, I could have the Gloves of Flint and Steel if I had picked any spells that did fire damage, actually. And the same thing goes with the rings. So maybe I could have picked the Ring of Fire. For boots, I found the Boots of Aid and Comfort. So when you heal someone, they gain an additional 3 temporary hit points. And I got Rain Dancer. I've also picked up the Staff of Arcane Blessing, like I mentioned earlier. The reason Rain Dancer can be useful is you can get your Bard to cast Great Water, and then on the next turn, or somebody else can cast Glyph of Warding that has lightning or cold damage to do double damage against the target. Maybe some other boots could be Boots of Speed, just in case you want your Bard to get around a bit more. As for the necklace, well actually let's have a look at the other Bard first, the Valor Bard. I've chosen the Amulet of Saloon's Chosen just because it's an extra source of healing. I would use this outside of combat, not during combat. Now this particular Bard, the Valor Bard, is the Zariel Tiefling, and she has the Helmet of Smiting, which is a helmet first of all, so you can't get critical hits against you. And when you apply a condition with one of your smite spells, which at least Branding Smite counts as, you gain temporary hit points equal to your modifier, but only while the condition is applied. So you can very quickly lose those temporary hit points. I've just gone for Githyanki Halfplate, highest armor class possible. Hellrider's Pride, so when this Bard heal someone. Now the thing is, Hellrider's Pride is medium armor, which is why it's on the Valor Bard, not on the Law Bard. As for rings, I've kind of random rings. The Ring of Poison Resistance to help resist damage, and in case we get below 50% hit points, we can then go a bit further with momentum. You could perhaps get Guiding Light, the ring from the Arcane Tower that gives you the light cantrip, because it's always nice to have a cantrip. Got the Boots of Striding. When you cast a spell that requires concentration, you gain momentum, so a bit of extra movement speed, and another source of momentum here. While you're concentrating, you cannot be pushed or knocked prone. That hasn't worked in the past. And Athletics +1, again, is medium armor. This cannot work with the Law Bard. I've got 2-hand crossbows on both Bards, because if you can, you may as well use a bonus action to attack. I've just got the Studded Shield at the moment. I'm in Grimforge. I haven't actually gone anywhere else in Grimforge. I've just arrived. So I could go and get the shield that has armor class +3. And I've gone for Faithbreaker. I could go for basically any one-handed weapon I want here. I could even give this Bard the Staff of Arcane Blessing instead. Or Nature's Snare. The reason Nature's Snare is good is it can ensnare a target. Now, the kind of downside to Valor Bards, I've already mentioned it, is we can only attack once per round, whereas the martial classes are 2 at this point. So they feel a bit lacking compared to the other martial classes. However, never forget, you're still a full spellcaster. We've still got Glyph of Warding, which is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to go down here, start a fight, because there's one more Bard-specific item, which isn't so important now that we're level 5, but we may as well have a look at it. Also, I do want to show off Stage Fright, the Illithid power. Oh, this is a bit strange. I don't think I've had this happen before. Can't do anything. Right, I'm going to have to reload and then start this fight again. So the Illithid power is called Stage Fright. Drown your enemies in a crippling fear of failure. So if they fail a wisdom saving throw, they receive disadvantage on attack rolls, and not just that, take 2d6 psychic damage each time they miss an attack. Targets overcome the stage fright early when they succeed an attack roll. I think this is really powerful because it's an AoE, it's not just one target. And I've got Cutting Words in case any of them pass their saving throw. Don't react. Alright, here, I'm going to use Cutting Words. Let's see if it made a difference. Not quite. Oh, if I'd had a -5, that would have worked. Oh well. So now, these two mimics have got disadvantage on attack rolls. What we can also do, Bardic Inspiration. Let's use Valiant damage here. Extra 1. Oh well. So really what I want to do, one thing you can do, we'll take a bit of damage here. Yeah, critical miss. Don't react. So one way to actually force an attack is to have attacks of opportunity. Oops, it hit. That's not what I wanted. Lae'zel's gonna have to make up for that. And now it's succeeded on an attack roll. Actually, it's lost stage fright. That looks a lot worse than it is. Maybe I could have used Cutting Words if I had a reaction ready. Also, casting Bane on them can reduce their attack rolls also. Alright, time for the Valor Bard. We're going to use Searing Smite. 80% chance. Pretty good chance to hit. And I've now gained temporary hit points equal to my Charisma modifier, which on this Bard is actually only +2. A bit sad, really. So every attack, we can choose whether to use Cutting Words. I would, once we get to level 5, use it liberally, because you can just short rest afterwards and get them all back. I'm going to riposte. I'm going to try and riposte from a range. And I missed an attack roll, so it took 7 damage. Alright, we're going to go for the big guns now. They are now wet. We need to hand some healing out. Oops, that was the wrong person. Never mind, should have gone for Lae'zel. So they're wet. Glyph of cold. Let's have cold. Maybe they'll... they're immune to prone. So in fact, let's use Glyph of lightning. Making sure it gets those two. Oh, they're just out of range of setting it off. That's a massive shame. So it took another 2d6 psychic damage there. And so now, to maybe make this work. Oh, no. Gonna use fear. I'm stuck up on this rock apparently. See that the cone doesn't come down to a different level. Ooh, there it goes. Level 5, no. Level 8, no. We've basically just won. Don't really need to worry about anything else. Right, let's try and let's dash. Try and set off this Glyph of Warding while they're still wet. On their turn, they're going to walk into it anyway. There we are. That's what I was looking for. So since they are vulnerable, they take double damage. And they are gone. So yeah, that was not the best fight I've ever had. Oh well. And in here we have the Boots of Brilliance. Once per long rest you can get 1 Bardic Inspiration back. I mean, I guess it's alright. Also, any weapons that were taken from you. I guess it's fine to put them on. Use it. And then just take them off again. There's no need to keep them on. You still keep the Bardic Inspiration. Now, what's the point in playing a Bard if you don't every now and again want to play some music? So I want to show you the perform action, but before I do that, I'm going to increase my chances to perform well with guidance. And in here, I've got enhanced ability. It's a charisma check. So an eagle level 2 will do. I've already got inspiration on this character as well. I'm going to wait until next turn. Now, depending on what instrument you've got, you get something slightly different. Different sound, I mean. I'm going to go to normal mode. You get to pick one of 3 tunes. So, let's see. You play any Volo. I successfully... Oh, blimey, I did need a lot of those bonuses, didn't I? So they're throwing me gold. Because I'm playing very well. With that added advantage, what a 5. 3 proficiency, 3 bliss spores, 3 valiant, +1 guidance, +5 charisma. What if I manage to get up to 20? Now, interestingly, now which one am I playing? The power, right. So I'm going to get the other bard to have a go. Using the same tune. And they actually join together to start playing the same tune in sync. Now, since they've already been played to, they don't throw any more coins. So you got 5 gold, you know, you get a bit of gold. It's never going to make you rich. But it's a nice little thing. One of the best things about it is that I've now made everyone come into a single group.
Should mind my step.
Which means if you are so inclined, you can now cast a lovely area of effect spell. Unfortunately, Stage Fright only affects enemies here, and Glyph of Warding should only go off when an enemy steps on it. So what I'm going to do is have Calm Emotions. Because of the Mind Masters here can be very annoying. Hopefully we maintain concentration. So to give out some inspiration, let's do it ahead of time. That's one less cutting words though. And then she perhaps can give out combat inspiration to Astarion. And then we're going to start combat. I'm going to start with a Shatter. Sorry, gnomes. Music stopped. I think it's because I'd played some music myself.
Action.
Alright, here we go. Ooh, right, so Lortav has a choice of using Valiant Defense. That's come from Combat Inspiration. I might actually use that. Or Cutting Words, because we've already used Combat Inspiration for Valiant Defense. Also, Cutting Words uses a reaction, which this one doesn't. It's caused it to miss. They've rolled a 24. That probably means that they've got a critical hit, to be honest. So I'm just going to let it go. I don't get why these Duergar sometimes get multiple attacks. Like, that was like 4 or 5 attacks there. Because of his armor, he's got advantage. He's passing these Constitution saving throws, thankfully. He's also got Bliss Spores at the moment, which really helps. Do I want to use Cutting Words? Maybe. There's a chance. I need a 5 or higher. There's a 50% chance that it works. Ooh, not quite. One more. Ouch. They rolled very well on their initiative. Or maybe I rolled badly. So we've taken loads of damage. It's not looking good. But Glyph of Warding's basically going to save the day. So I'm going to heal... Oh my gosh. Lortav has nearly gone down. A bit of Blade Ward's going to help. Now, interestingly, what we can do also with Glyph of Warding, I hope this works. Sleep. Sending enemies to sleep. Now, both Mindmaster Dunal and Sergeant Thrin have yet to go. So if I can send them both to sleep, that will really help things out. Of course, they pass their saving throws. Her spell's save DC is actually particularly low. So this is probably an ideal time to use Stage Fright. Also, try and give them disadvantage on their attack rolls. They've rolled a 21. Yeah, try and make them... Alright, one of them passed. Yeah, pretty badly hurt. This is the time when maybe actually just using a healing potion is fine rather than healing words. There's a big one. So I'm concentrating on Eagle Splendor. I don't really need it. I'm going to risk an opportunity attack because if they miss, they take 2d6 psychic damage. No, don't need it. Okay. Yeah, Cutting Words. Miss and a miss. Look at that. 16 damage. And I can attack if I want to. I've got an 80% chance to hit. It's pretty good. So I've got to think about whether I want to use Odd Person. Or perhaps I want to use Branding Smite. Or I could use Stage Fright again. Lots of choices here as the Valor Bard. I haven't got any level 3 spell slots. Okay, right. I'm going to try and use this. To get me a couple of temporary hit points. Do a tiny bit of damage. Alright, so I've run out of Bardic Inspiration. A little bit sad. As for bonus actions, I could take an offhand attack. Now this dude is currently actually raging. So I'm only going to do half damage against him anyway. So instead, I'm going to use Dissonant Whispers. This Duergar over here, Dalthar, is dazed. So they get disadvantage on their Wisdom saving throw. Really hoping to kill him. Quite close. And because we've got our offhand attack... Oh! Although on their turn, they should die from bleeding. Anyway, I haven't got any Cutting Words left, so provoking an opportunity attack is actually very risky right now. Thankfully, this Calm Emotions has made sure I haven't actually fallen under their spell, as it were. So this Barbarian just did 20 psychic damage to himself because of Stage Fright. Absolutely amazing. Right, Lae'zel's gone down. Let's get that. It'd be quite good to get rid of Sergeant Thrin. A little bit dangerous right now in terms of taking damage. 80% chance to hit, or what we can do. 3 of them out of combat. This Mind Master will probably come along and try and wake up some of them. So getting Lae'zel up seems like, and it is important, but they are grouped together very nicely. So I'm going to do two things, I believe. First of all, gets an automatic critical hit, killing them. And then because we've got a level 3 spell slot, either Fear or Glyph of Warding is going to work here. Now, some of them on, well, two of them on relatively low numbers of hit points, so I'm going to go with Glyph of Warding. At this point, it doesn't really matter which damage we use. I don't quite have enough movement. Alright, well, that was the hope. Since I don't have enough movement, let's actually just throw a potion of healing here. A little bit cheesy there. Ouch. That might have just saved me. Oh, Grease has just messed me up. So, here goes nothing. Hopefully within range now. I don't think any of them are wet or anything, so... I can't quite hit 3 of them. Makes me wonder whether Glyph of Warding is worth it here. And instead I could cast Cloud of Daggers. Right, Mind Master Dunal goes next, as does Elder Brithvar and Mind Master Von Mara. Now, I think the Mind Masters need to go. Let's get rid of these two, hopefully. There goes one of them. That's a shame. Oops, a daisy. Alright, Lae'zel has to basically finish everyone off. And we need to get rid of this dude. Githyanki to the rescue. Let's get people up. All my spell slots are gone now. Verify is going to be useful. They keep going invisible. Give us advantage, and now we can attack with the offhand. He is a bit of a problem. Yeah, Lae'zel's smashing through these people now. Got bonus action. Get Valatabat. Quite nice. We need to do some damage. Guaranteed damage. 75% chance to hit isn't quite good enough, so this is what Dissonant Whispers is great for. Even if they pass the saving throw, I would have taken 1 damage, which is all we needed. Let's give out some combat inspiration to Starion. Ah, he's already got some inspiration. No spell slots left, so we've just got to go with either weapon attacks or cantrips. This is why this weapon is really awesome. Just when you needed it, eh? Alright, 1 enemy left. Long slog this fight. Generally not a good idea to start in the middle of these guys. Okay, I've basically made it now. Whew, that was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Do some healing on Astarion. He won't fall asleep.
Well, you know.
And because we're dual wielding, yeah. It would have been easy if I hadn't been surrounded by enemies. All in one go. Right, I'll do one more battle and then see what happens. Right, this fight's a bit easier. I've got loads of options here. Stage fright is a good first choice, I think. Helps give disadvantage. Fear, I could probably move up and try and fear 3 of them if that works. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to try. It's not a great chance to work. I'm going to try Glyph of Warding Sleep. Hopefully gets 3 of them. Ooh, only one of them failed their saving throw, which is unfortunate because they will get woken up now by the other 2. Unless I can stop them from getting to that body. Don't think that's possible, really. Well, that's one of them. Yeah, woken up. No point. That's not going to work. Oof. Straight for the Valabard. Wow. Might go down, actually. Yep. Alright, so Glyph of Warding Sleep didn't work so well. I'm going to try. Actually, use Fear this way. Why? Because Gish for Wrath. They've got a 21. I think it's worth a shot. Oh, man. They both rolled really quite well. One rolled a 20, one rolled 14. Oh, just met it. Let's use Valiant Defense. And don't react. And don't react. Ah. Now, although we can't see them, they should still get stage fright. Here we are. So let's take the offhand attack. Right, Raider's Astri is annoying me, as is the invisible South Baretha, who seems to be right here. So I'm certain of that. We can get cutting words out. There she is. Being very annoying. No. Ooh, oh, even an 8 wouldn't make it minimum. Concentration saving throw. Succeeded, very much needed. Oops. Oh, she's just gonna heal herself. And riposte. And because he keeps missing, he keeps receiving stage fright. Right, Cloud of Daggers has now outstayed its welcome. Don't need it anymore. This is where Thunderwave would have been good to knock someone back. So we'll go for a single target. Dissonant Whisper's not a bad chance to work. No, don't need to cut some words. Oh, I'm ensnared, right. We'll try. Nah, not anymore. Oh, they keep rolling very high. Ooh, that might work. Nope, didn't work. Alright, this Bard finally gets to do something. Let's try whole person. Ooh, not great chance. Always worth a shot.
Swift as my feet can carry me.
Because now we're going to do loads and loads of damage. That's right. So this whole person has basically made us win. We'll do sneak attack because she'll definitely go down from that. I mean, Lord Tav is down. I don't think I need to worry about that too much. Ooh, down again. It's probably best to actually help somebody up here. Now when it's 4-on-1, there's almost no way to lose. Lord Tav could die on the next turn. Oops.
Never a dull.
Ah, not really. Right. Up we get. Single target damage, may as well potentially frighten them. Yeah. They've not got a disadvantage on their attack rolls. No. No. I do really like cutting words. I think it's really, really good. They're on 19 hit points. This is where sleep now comes in. Controlling the battlefield. Bomp. And now Lae'zel can finish them off in whichever way we see fit. Ooh, not quite. Right. Now we can use a Song of Rest. And since I'm really quite damaged, maybe I can just use 2. And I've still got 2 short rests left. And this would be a good time to give Lae'zel a better piece of armor from South Baretha. Alright, I feel like I got a bit unlucky in those 2 fights, but there we have it. We've got Bards, good at controlling, and they can do damage. You can't tell me that they didn't do damage. We've got Fear for control, Glyph of Warding, Cloud of Daggers for damage, single target damage, you've got Dissonant Whispers, you've got Shatter for another AoE, or person Stage Fright caused a fair bit of damage. All round, I think they are a great class, to be honest. They are very versatile and can fill up any spot in the party that you want. Let me know what your favourite subclass is, what spells you like to take, or items, anything I've missed, because there seems to be always some little thing I've missed, or maybe sometimes gone wrong. If you made it this far, please do consider subscribing. Thank you to all the members of my channel, and hopefully I'll catch you all in the next one.